Hello again. I'm on kind of a spurt of producing these videos for now. Inspired by the election, there's a number of frustrating elements to the whole spectacle of elections, and it's getting more and more crazy and absurd every time there is one, especially a US presidential election. And it gets me thinking about core things that I understand about the world and believe about reality and so on. So, yeah, I don't want to read a teleprompter or read my notes, but I have copious notes in front of me. Um, a lot of links, a lot of books, and so on. So, I'm going to make a long video, but I'll put chapters in so you can, come back to it, watch it for 15 minutes and come back because I just want to get it over and done with. I'm involved right now in producing a pilot for a TV series I want to make, and I'm working with a couple of production companies on it and doing a lot of writing and some filmmaking. And it's going to take a while to get this out there. Hopefully, it's taken up and it gets produced. But in the meantime, I'm making an independent film, so that'll be out there anyway, sometime next year. I think the end of next year. So that takes up a lot of my time. I also have a international medical insurance agency that I've had as a part-time business for a long time. So I help hook up expats with medical insurance when they're living abroad. So I'm going to produce more content for that website because I need to earn money. I'm spending a lot of money on this film production, so I need to focus a little bit more on my income. Even though I'm in my 60s, I don't think I'll ever retire. It's, the microplastics and the PFAS and all the other poisons and Alzheimer's and wine and whatever the hell's going to get my brain at the end of the day will shut me down, so, sometime in the future. And that's just life. So as long as I have energy and my brain works, I'm going to keep going. That's a little bit of context. I also want to remind everybody that I have a website that I maintain at globehackers.com or cospelon.eu. I publish a blog post once in a while, nothing earth-shattering. I also put it on Substack and Medium. I have just from my snapshots of life, I have an Instagram at BouliamT. That's my social media stuff. And my Facebook Globe Hackers page, where I put information that I think is interesting and important, information that might challenge a lot of people's algorithms, some information that may be a little bit more off the mainstream. I have concerns that you're aware of, and I think they're extremely important to us today, as well as to posterity, to young people. So that's out there. You can look at that. I have a book page there. And the book page is very important to me because the more you read, the more you can develop your worldview and understand how things work. Fiction is fun, poetry is fun, and all kinds of genres of reading are fun and good for you. Movies are fun and TV series are fun, but everyone should be in the habit of reading every day, at least an hour. Read studies, read papers, read articles, read books, especially books. You should have an hour a day on a book. So if you can Squeeze in 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening before you go to bed. Just do it and just start reading everything you can. I read a lot of nonfiction these days uh, because I've been very interested in some subjects that I wasn't very up on. And so, in general, when I start reading on a subject, I'll vet, read reviews, look up authors uh, of a particular subject. Like if I want to read about Afghanistan, the history of it, going back, let's say, to the 19th century and then up through the Afghan war with the Soviet Union and then the United States intervention there. I'll have to read 3 or 4 or 5 books on it because you need perspective. You need different people's points of view on it. Same thing with the history of the Middle East. Palestine is a thing. Yes, it was called that before it was called Israel. Um, and, Israel, I've read books on that and books on Palestine and books on all kinds of things. But that's just an example. So if I want to learn about physics or something, or I want to learn about epidemiology or medicine or the history of World War II or horticulture or, whatever. Um, Whatever your interests are, whatever you think, maybe there's a hole in your awareness, there's a void there, and you want to fill it because you've heard of things. People keep talking about communism and socialism and neoliberalism, and you hear this stuff on the media and you wonder, what the heck is all that stuff? I have no idea. So you can read up on it. A lot of what I've been doing here is curating in a way, suggesting people read this, that, or the other thing. I'm not deluded, and I'm not an egomaniac. Um, there are all kinds of cool people to follow that are very eloquent. They have their shtick down. They have their spiel. They have their subject down pat. A lot of them are consultants or financial advisors or intellectual influencers. You know who they are. I've mentioned them a lot on my channel. And they're entertaining. They sound really smart. They seem to know what they're talking about. And they present very, very well. Much better than I do, of course. And so they're mesmerizing and they're interesting. And I've followed a lot of them myself. And after a while, I get a little bit tired of a particular one and move on to another one, influencer, and get influenced. Go figure. Uh, and then some it wears out, wears thin. Obviously, I've criticized having the conversation. It's necessary. It's one of the ways we learn by listening to people talk. So there's a million podcasts I listen to. Um, Citations needed. The recent one is very important. I'm going to suggest that in a minute. Um, but well, I'll suggest it now, and I'll put up a graphic here. But it's basically about how conservatives like to play the victim card. They like to pretend like they're a minority and they're the victim. Everybody does that. Liberals do it. Neoliberals do it. Neocons do it. Everybody does it. I'm a victim. I don't get enough attention. The world's against me. Academia is against me. The government's against me. Uh, you know, that kind of thing. So a lot of these people like Bill Maher and so on, they go to Ivy League schools, Cornell in his case, and then they go on their TV show and make fun of academia and say that, getting a college degree is bullshit. They don't talk about how to educate people, how to ensure that people have an adequate education for our times or free education or anything like that. They just criticize academia. Uh, it's pretty lame, and obviously they do that because it's lucrative for them to do that at the moment, at this particular moment in time. The zeitgeist is pointing that way, so it's popular, and everyone's suffering from audience capture. So they're going to do what their audience wants them to do. And they'll have on, at one, you just go back in time and look at how they change and their guests change and all that stuff. Other people are more predictable. They're just simple neoliberals that don't know they're neoliberals. They're just simple people like Stephen Colbert, for example, who has a very typical worldview. You're steeped in it, you're enveloped by it, you're listening to it 24/7. So, this worldview is the worldview that leads to elections like we just had. Um, and unfortunately, they never end. So it's ironic to me, or kind of bizarre, that although we're unhappy with the way things are each election, at least half the the population is unhappy, if not more than half, um, with the way things are. We still go along with the way things are, and business as usual continues. And so 4 years later, we're in the same boat, and nothing's really changed. Nothing's real. There's been no solutions or anything. Uh, I've stated that we, live in a global oligarchy, which I think is true. So all the nonsense marketing of democracy and freedom, it's just bullshit as far as I'm concerned. Yes, there are degrees of freedom and degrees of, democracy and agency that we all have and exercise, and that's great. But we're far from anywhere near an ideal definition of any of these things. And I'm not a utopian at all. The things that I advocate are very difficult to do and probably won't happen. So the things that I think will happen eventually will happen because billions of people are going to die. And from now until billions of people have died and the population has just been reduced through circumstances, a number of things that I'll touch upon in this video, um, until things are really painful, the worldview isn't going to change. So most people who are advocating this, that, or the other thing, we've seen it all before. If you read enough, you can go back 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 1,000 years, and you can see these ideas. And they're being rehashed in new eras, uh, colored by, new discoveries, new tools, new information, more data, and so on. But generally speaking, it goes in one direction. It is what it is, and you're part and parcel of it. It's Stockholm Syndrome, and you don't even know it. You're identifying with your captors, and you think they're your friends, and they're not. So I wasn't impressed by Biden. I never liked him. I wasn't impressed by Harris. And if that hurts some people's feelings, I'm sorry. It shouldn't hurt your feelings. This is my opinion. This is what I believe based on my understanding of the world. And I think my understanding of the world is fairly well founded. I'm not a genius. I'm not Noam Chomsky. I can't remember everything I read, but it doesn't matter. I've continually washed my soul and my brain with what I think is good information. Um, I trust my judgment at this point, but I don't think that I cannot be fooled. I'm not above it all. I'm not the smartest guy in the room or anything like that. If you want to follow people like that, there are many of them out there that will tell you that they're super geniuses. Ben Shapiro will tell you he knows it all. And if that's good enough for you, fine. But that means you don't want to do the work. That means you don't want to think for yourself. If you did, you would be reading instead of watching those blowhards con you, and you wouldn't give them a dime. It's sad. I think. For me, it's hard to have conversations with some friends because they're not very well read. So, I can have all kinds of nice conversations with them, but if I bring up certain things, we can't talk about it because there's a gap in their awareness or their knowledge of the subject. I love to talk to people who are smarter than me in any way. You know, if they're smarter than me about any subject, I want to talk to them about what they know and their experiences and their understanding and their wisdom, their knowledge. I want to learn from people. So, yeah, I don't meet a lot of geniuses that are going to give me the time of day or spend an hour at the cafe chatting with me. Why? I'm another dumbass. So, you know, it's like when you play tennis or golf, you want to play with someone better than you so that you can up your game. There's no point in playing with people that can't hit the ball over the net. You're not going to get better at tennis playing with someone like that. So, you know, in a perfect world for me, I would be talking to brilliant people all the time. And they would just like me because I was pet like or cute or something. And they would give me, 20 minutes of their day. Or I'd be at some beautiful utopian university somewhere walking around the campus, eco campus, well, among intelligent, curious people who are constantly learning and hundreds of teachers auditing classes, you know, Magister Ludi in the glass bead game, Hermann Hesse, something like that, you know. Uh, Walking around Athens, my imaginary Athens, back in the day, uh, you know, hanging out with Socrates by the pier, uh, stuff like that. That'd be a lot of fun, but I don't have access to people like that. Nobody's going to talk to me. So I go to books. Books are the next best thing. And I can talk to anybody. I can talk to Jesus. I can talk to Muhammad. I can talk to Churchill. I can talk to uh, anybody. You get the drift. So all of these authors that I've read are precious gifts to me. Thank you, authors, for taking the time to research and write your book and for putting it out there and allowing me to read it. I'm happy I spent 10, 20 bucks on your book. I hope you're living a nice life and feeding your family and whatnot. You're my treasure. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And people like Nate Hagens that I love who, you know, has the conversation. I appreciate what he's doing. I just don't think that for us, the audience, it's enough. So I'm going to address what is enough, in my opinion, in this video. And I'll try to, when I edit it, break it down in sections, as I said, so that you can take a break and come back to it if you're so inclined. There may be 4, 5, 6 people that watch it, and I beg you, I really do. You can subscribe if you like. I appreciate that, but it's not like I'm going to, you know, be banging out videos like other people do. But I do put a lot of time and work and thought and care into these, so I hope you appreciate that just a little bit. And I beg you to share it because I'd like people to see this video. This is one that I'm going to put out there, and people can ridicule me and laugh at me and treat me like an idiot or attack me. That's fine. I don't mind. But I would like people to see it because I want to direct people's attention towards these subjects, and hopefully it will inspire them to do a little bit of soul-searching, self-critique, self-analysis, and also see the world more clearly so they can see some of the contradictions and flaws and dangers in our way of thinking, in our worldview. And this is extremely important right now. Obviously, if I've lost you already, never mind, because for a lot of people, you know, life is about just getting rich and having things. And that takes a lot of work as well. So you probably don't have time for this kind of nonsense. You're too busy kicking ass and taking names, or climbing the corporate ladder, or raising money for your startup, or doing whatever you have to do. Um, and a lot of criminals out there, they just have to get over on people. They got to get a big score, and they don't have time for this kind of nonsense. It's not politics, it's not ideology, it's not philosophy. It's a comprehensive worldview that we have to struggle with that includes all of these domains. And in particular, I would say, if we're ignoring the natural sciences, then we have a huge, gaping, tragic hole in our understanding of the world, and it needs to be sorted out. So spend some time with the natural sciences any way you can. There's so many resources now, but I truly believe these resources could disappear in the future. So take advantage of the internet and smartphones and computers and websites and online courses, all of these things while you can. Figure out a way to protect your information, back up your information, keep your books safe, whether they're in digital form or otherwise. One of the things I wish I could do is find a medium to publish our books on that was fairly indestructible. In my story, in my TV series, I deal with that. So it's exciting. Don't worry. There's excitement. There's chase scenes and stuff. It won't be totally boring. Um, but that's another thing, and I'll put that on another channel in another place, and when the time is right to promote that. But this is not that place, so I'll shut up about that. So that's kind of the background. I have a link on my website where I share, links to other websites, and I think they're useful and helpful. I want to get people out of this cycle of disappointment where they're euphoric about a candidate and then they're brokenhearted when that candidate doesn't win. Because these people don't really work for you and they're not going to help you, really. They're part of this neoliberal, neoconservative, capitalist, global financialized capitalism, which has been turbocharged by fossil fuels for a while. And that period, that era is coming to an end. And how violent and horrific that process of ending is will be determined by us. And if we're all going to just sit around and wait to see what happens, your children and your grandchildren are they're going to suffer a great deal. And I think that's sad. Me, I'm not. I'll be dead in 10, 15 years. Who knows? So who gives a shit? I'll be gone, dead and buried. But life will go on after I'm gone, and it's going to be rough. And I really do believe that the next 15 years are going to be more difficult than the last 15 years. So I'd like to tell people that if there's anything you got to do on your bucket list, do it now. Don't put it off. Get busy. Every single day is an opportunity to do what you have to do, what you want to do, what you love. Don't put that off. There's really no time. Obviously, if you're rich and famous now, you don't care because you're having fun and you got a dynamic social life and plenty of things on your calendar. And you're sitting pretty, so you wouldn't watch this anyway. Why would you? If you're an NFL superstar, you're playing football. And, I don't expect everybody to think like me or to be interested in things that I'm interested in. There's a lot, it takes a lot of different kinds of people to make the world go around. And that's just a fact. And I'm a fan of the NFL and of the UFC. So I'm a bad boy. I have the things that I like to do that are just entertainment and fun, that are not so serious. And I don't spend my whole day fretting about the things that I'm making this video about. I try to enjoy the day, you know, I try to have a nice day and be good to people, be respectful, enjoy the encounters I have each day with people, enjoy my cats, enjoy my partner. Um, I just, my friends, all that kind of thing. And like most people, right? So I just want people to think, to realize that if you're putting your faith in the U.S. political system and ideology, um, it's misplaced. It's misguided. I want you to develop the capability to have a better imagination and be able to think of and create something else. And I want you to get busy doing that. So people always talk, you know, conservatives always talk about they need another political party because they're oppressed, even though they're not. And other people believe that as well. I mean, we need a social movement that's global, unfortunately, because the challenges that we're facing are global challenges. Uh, if you're rich and from a rich country, you're rich, whether it's Holland or Denmark or the United States or Canada or New Zealand or Australia, because of imports, because of the global supply chain, because you can get metals and materials and so on from all around the world, and companies turn them into things like the camera that's filming me now and ship it to you to markets. We can buy it and consume it. Um, we're not, we wouldn't be rich if we couldn't do that. So that's what I mean when I say colonialism and neocolonialism is a thing. It's not just the global economy, stupid, and so on and so forth, although that's a big thing too. Um, we need those inputs, so we must exploit other people around the world to get them. We have to have child miners in in Congo and other parts of the world to have what we have, you know, sweatshops and people jumping out of windows at Foxconn in China, making our iPhones. It's an unjust world in that sense, and but we're beneficiaries of it. So everything we have comes from the global economy, fossil fuels, coal, gas, you know, petrochemicals, plastics. It makes up everything. We depend on it. We take it for granted. The technology is invisible to us. Uh, the whole system is a black box, stocks and flows, feedback loops. It's all mysterious. We don't know. We just get emotionally excited when somebody mentions someone we don't like. So right now, Trump is an evil character. He's just a front man. He's just like a figurehead for a more pernicious and ugly and pathological uh, mindset that runs the global empire, which is the United States of America. Um, Europe is going to find it very hard to decouple from the United States. Decoupling multipolar worlds and all that, it's going to be difficult. And it's going to be more competition, more artificial scarcity, and so on, for blocks of nation states that are going to compete for the resources that we need to have the kind of economic growth that we believe we can't live without. Anyway, this is an introduction, just putting things in a bit of context personally and so on, before I go into my notes and discussing these other sections. I have a lot of resources on my website. I didn't come up with any of this myself. I'm getting the content from the internet, from books, from other authors and contributors and activists and so on. So this isn't original. Uh, it's not plagiarism, but it's a kind of plagiarism. But that's what every book is, because everything's derived from something else. And it's the difference is what we pay attention to and what we do with what we pay attention to and what we create from what we pay attention to. That's the difference. And so each and every one of us can be unique and contribute in that way. We can riff, we can improvise, we can create from all that's out there that we pay attention to and engage with and learn from. And that's all I'm doing. And I encourage everyone to do it, especially my friends who are upset about Harris or euphoric about Trump. These people aren't going to help you. Elon Musk isn't going to help you. I mean, we can be thankful for Amazon for whatever reason, and thankful for PCs and Apple and whatever. But the billionaires and the corporatists aren't there for you. They're there to make profit for their shareholders. And if you're not a shareholder, you're not benefiting really. If you're a worker with a good salary, obviously that's great and you have some benefits and so on. Anyway, I'm rambling now. So that's the context. That's where I'm coming from. This is who I am. And I'm going to make this long video. I hope you watch it. And who knows what's next after this. So that's the introduction. So there's something that we have to engage with, in my opinion. It may sound scary to some people because the powers that be hate it, because it would impinge upon their ability to have more control and more wealth, more power. Power is a thing, and power to the people isn't a thing. Democracy isn't a thing. Not really. Everything exists so that the king or the boss or the billionaire or the owner can have more, and more power, more control, more money, more things, more land. The statistics around this are shocking, and it should be a red flag to everybody. But we're addicted to our world, so we don't pay attention to it. You know, it's like a crack addict or a crystal meth addict or a heroin addict. You know, you don't care how bad it is for you. You're totally engrossed by it, and you come to need it and depend on it. And so our world is like that. We're addicted to it. Our world is formed from all kinds of addictions, and we're stuck in it, and it's very difficult to break away from that. So one idea or word, concept, ideology, philosophy that's scary to people, to normal human beings, is socialism. Socialism, ooh. And Trump used that to great effect with his people, with his fans. Everyone just thinks it's evil. Harris is a communist. Oh, I'm not going to vote for her. She's a communist. Well, most of us don't know what that is. We don't know the history of it. We don't know how the etymology, how the word came about. We don't know anything about it. So, but we know it's bad, right? Red Scare started way before the McCarthy era. It goes way back to the 19th century. The labor movement of the 19th century. You have to look at this. It's very, very rapacious. The fights between the owners and the workers. And there have been revolutions. It's not just Bolsheviks. It's not just Russia. It's not just Cuba, something like that you may have heard of. It's been around a long time. But that doesn't mean that any ideal form of socialism or communism or democracy or capitalism has ever existed. But we should know about it because it's quite different from what we have now. And I believe that we're going to need something different. Now, I don't know if it's going to be called this, that, or the other thing. But for now, there are scholars and people and activists and working on in these realms, in these domains. And we can learn a lot from them if we care to pay attention to what they're doing. So socialism, I have a note here. So in the 21st century, right, not going back to some other time, it's a broad umbrella term that encompasses a range of political and economic ideologies. It's not just one simple thing, but it advocates for social ownership and democratic control of the means of production, distribution, and exchange. So you're going to have to shit can the kind of markets that we have now. And I'm not talking about the farmer's market. So that scares people because it sounds so commie. And we all know that communism doesn't work because capitalism works. Well, unfortunately, capitalism also has its constraints, and those constraints are becoming more and more obvious every day. I'll talk about overshoot and things like that later. So socialism takes many forms, from state ownership, central planning, to worker cooperatives, community ownership, decentralized communities, intentional communities, stuff like that you hear about. But the common thread of it is that the activities, social activities should meet the needs of society and the whole rather than just the private sector and owners and the few, the 1%, the billionaires. Inequality is a thing. You can learn about that. It's written about all over the place. I mentioned Thomas Piketty's book last time, but there's so much out there. So it's a more holistic worldview, and it's a worldview that is much more democratic than what we have now. We don't have a democracy, we have an oligarchy, in my opinion. So one main element is a critique of capitalism. It's essentially exploitative and unequal and generates vast wealth for the few and perpetuates poverty and insecurity and violence and cycles of boom and bust and all that kind of thing. So there's lots of systemic flaws in capitalism, and you can find out about that if you want to look at it. But if you think it's the be-all and end-all, you're wrong, and someday you're going to find out. And every day from now on until doomsday you're going to find out more and more how fucked up our current form of capitalism is, whether you want to or not. And it will dawn on you bit by bit. No matter how stubborn you are in trying not to see the signs and the red flags, you will see it.